everybody. Again, my name is Ben Ranciere. I'm from the Project Healthy Schools team. And today with me, I have Chloe, also from the Project Healthy Schools team, who you did not see on the recording last week, but we are so excited to have Chloe with us today. And she's going to be taking us through the recipe. But before we get started, let's just think back to last week's session when we made our anytime burritos. And if you think back, what was the basis of that? What were we trying to do with that? What type of meal were we trying to create? Anybody remember?
Maybe a balanced meal?
A balanced meal, yes. And so whenever we're creating meals and today's snacks, what we're really trying to accomplish is that whole notion of creating balanced meals for ourselves, which is providing our bodies with a variety of nutrients, micro and macronutrients that help our bodies function and help us feel good throughout the course of our day. So today we're going to be going through a snack recipe that we're really excited to bring you. But let's think about our burritos last time. How were they? What did you like about them? What would you add to them? Have you added anything to them maybe since you've experimented? We talked a little bit about adding maybe some eggs and making it a breakfast burrito and adding a little bit more protein into it. Maybe adding a little avocado, some chicken if it's going to be a dinner recipe for you. So hopefully you've had some opportunities to kind of experiment over the course of the last week or so to really expand upon that recipe. And we want you kind of thinking about that as we go through today. So you've received your materials and Chloe's going to take us through those materials. But before we do, Chloe, we need the oven today, right?
We do.
So what are we going to be doing first with our oven to get that up and rolling?
So first, you're going to want to preheat your oven. So we're going to go over to ours right now. You're going to hit bake. We're going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees.
375 degrees. Now, what does it mean to preheat? Why am I preheating my oven? Why can't I just take what I need, pop it in there? What's the importance of preheating it?
So today we'll be making some tortillas, some tortilla chips. So we want to preheat our oven so that it's hot and ready to go. If you put your tortillas into the oven while it's still cold, it could take, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to cook them. So if we let our oven preheat for about 5-10 minutes, it shouldn't take too long. You want to do it while you're prepping everything up. You'll be able to throw your tortillas in and your chips should be ready in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about snacks. And we all love snacks, right?
Yes.
I love snacks. Chloe loves snacks. What's your favorite snack?
I like apples with peanut butter. What about
Mine
you?
too! That is so crazy. So that is mine as well. But now one thing you need to keep in mind with peanut butter is paying attention to that ingredient list, right? So on every packaged food, there's an ingredient list. And some peanut butters out there are a little bit guilty of putting in some extra ingredients, maybe a little bit more salt, some hydrogenated oils. So when I look for peanut butter, I look for one ingredient.
Peanuts.
Peanuts is the only ingredient you need. So we're going to talk a little bit more about snacks as we kind of go through today's recipe. And again, you've gotten your kind of snack packs from the school. You've picked them up. You have all your ingredients. Chloe, why don't you kind of take us through what we're going to be needing for today's recipe?
Right. So today we are making mango salsa with homemade tortilla chips. So for the tortilla chips, we're going to need those tortillas. Remember we had 12 last week, so we're using 6 this week. Hopefully you saved those in your fridges. If not, you can get some more. We can use a little bit less, a little bit more. Again, with cooking, you can use any amount you want. We're also going to have our mango. We have a red onion, a green pepper, lime, some olive oil, salt. And then to make all these, we're going to use our cutting boards, a mixing bowl. We're going to have a half teaspoon. We're going to use our knives that we got, our nice safety knives, and a baking sheet. Now you can put parchment paper or foil on your baking sheet. It makes the cleanup a little bit easier, but you don't have to. It's all up to you.
Excellent. So, as you can see, we talked a little bit last week about a variety of foods, right? Eating the rainbow.
Yeah.
And when you think about snacks, there's a lot of processed snacks that we kind of tend to consume, maybe overconsume a little bit. So keep in mind, the best ingredients are always going to come directly from Mother Earth, right? Grown by Earth. So before we get to these, last week we had to wash off some of our vegetables. Which ones do we need to wash off today before we get started?
So we already washed ours just to save a little bit of time. So you can pause your video now to wash them. But you're going to want to wash your mango, your pepper, and your lime. You don't have to worry too much about the onion because we did this last week, but you're gonna peel off this nice papery outside that kind of protects the inside. And again, we do this to protect ourselves from getting any chemicals that might be used when they grow. While you're washing those, you also want to wash your hands, which we both did before we did this as well.
Exactly. So if you haven't washed your vegetables and you haven't washed your hands, why don't you go ahead and give the video a quick pause. Go ahead and take care of those things. And when you're ready to rejoin us, pop us back on. Also, while you're pausing the video, take a little peek at your oven to see if your oven is up to 375 like ours is. So go ahead and do a quick pause. If you're ready to go, rejoin us. And we are going to get started. What are we going to start on first?
We're going to first start our tortilla chips. We're going to cook our tortilla chips while we cook our mango salsa and put that all together.
Okay. So we're taking out our tortillas. Again, you should have hopefully about 5 or 6 of those left from last week's recipe when we made our anytime burritos, which were so delicious.
I know, I really liked mine too.
Yes.
All right, so first what you're going to do, we're going to take our stack of tortillas, so you should have 6. You can just plop them down. You're going to take your knife, and again, remember our knife safety, so we're going to keep our knife, make sure that our area is clear. The only thing that we want in front of us is our tortillas. So we're going to go ahead and cut these. You're going to go straight down the middle.
So notice how Chloe has them stacked up, right? Just saving ourselves some cutting time, right? However, if you're kind of struggling, is it okay to cut these individually?
Yeah, of course. You're welcome to cut them individually. So I'll cut one too. It just makes it easier because we are cutting a couple of pieces. So after you cut them in half, you're going to cut them into triangles now. You can cut them into however many you would like. The easiest way for me is just to keep cutting in half. So I cut it in half, again, and again.
So think about as you're cutting, right? So we're going to be dipping this in salsa. So now I am kind of a big salsa lover. So I'm going to be really putting a heaping portion on my tortilla chip. And so thinking of that, if I'm cutting these, I'm probably going to keep them in a little bit larger sections. If you're just one of those little mini dippers, maybe you want to go with a little bit of smaller of a cut.
Yeah.
All right, wow. Look at those. Okay.
All right. Now you're going to take your tortillas. You're going to kind of just spread them out onto the sheet. You don't want them to overlap too much.
Okay, now when we think about our balanced meals, right? So we talked a lot about last week about balanced meals. Anybody remember what those categories are? What are those nutrients involved in a My Plate? If you have a truly balanced meal, we have fruits and vegetables, right? Which we're seeing over here. And we also have protein and we have grains. So where do your tortillas fall within your balanced meal section?
Well, tortillas do have grain in them. They're made with flour. So our tortillas are going to be our grain.
Okay, great. So we have grains, we have fruits, we have vegetables. All right, so we got these spread out on our baking sheet here. Again, trying not get them to overlap too much so that they'll all kind of cook nice and evenly or bake nice and evenly in our oven. Again, take a quick look. Is your oven at 375? Because we're about to get these in there. All right, so what's next?
You're going to spray your olive oil on there. So the approximate, you can use about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. With spraying, it makes it a little bit easier just for spreading it all out. So you're just going to spray it on there. Try to get a nice coat of olive oil on all of them. You're going to do that first on one side. Now we're going to cut our lime. One hack with citrus fruits, especially when you're juicing, is if you roll it and you kind of put some pressure on it. It helps just when you're hand squeezing to make it a little bit easier. So do that a couple of times.
Here.
Now you're going to cut your lime in half.
Ooh, look at those juices flowing.
All right. You can measure this. So with cooking, again, we always talk about this. Measurements don't need to be exact. If you really like lime juice like I do, I drench my tortilla chips in lime. But you can also measure it. So we're going to use a half a teaspoon of lime juice. Squeeze this on here. And if you just corner, you want to put the lime right on the corner, and it will squeeze nicely into your tablespoon or your teaspoon. All right, so we got a half a teaspoon. So I'm just gonna drizzle that over here. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's because next we're gonna flip all of these over.
Excellent. Now what's the lime bringing to the table here? What is a lime, why is it important for this recipe?
So limes are a really great and cheap way to add good flavor to foods. So all citrus fruits have a nice, kind of just bright citrusy flavor. They also have vitamin C in them, which is really great for our immune systems.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, the importance of vitamin C.
So again, we just sprayed some olive oil on the other side. Because I like lime, you don't have to do this, but if you do like lime too, you can just take your lime and squeeze it right over the tortillas. I think so. All right, now we're gonna throw these into the oven.
Okay.
Pop those in.
In the oven they go. How long are we baking the tortillas for?
Yeah, we are going to bake these for about 10 to 14 minutes. It all depends on your oven. So I'm gonna set a timer right now for 10 minutes. You can do that on, if you have a phone or if you have a kitchen timer, set that to 10 minutes.
And again, if your oven is not up to the 375 yet, go ahead and give us a quick pause. Wait for it to get up to 375. Pop them in there, and then rejoin us for some chopping and dicing of our vegetables.
Awesome.
All right, which one's first?
All right, so now it's time for our mango salsa. Has anyone cut a mango before? Have you cut a mango before?
I have cut a mango. It's not pretty, but I have done it.
Well, we're gonna try to cut our mango. There's a special technique to cut your mangoes. So they get pretty slippery, so that is why we are not using a vegetable peeler. It can get slippery and it will slip out of your hands like that. So to cut our mango, you're gonna cut it into 3 pieces. So we're gonna cut just down this outside part. You're gonna flip it around. I'm gonna cut it on the other side. All right, so now you have 3 pieces. This big piece right here has a huge core in it. And that's kind of what holds the fruit all together. It's where in some fruits there's seeds in there. Now we're gonna take these 2 side pieces that we cut, and you're gonna take your knife and you're gonna very carefully score it. That just means making little, you're not gonna cut all the way through. You're just gonna cut little lines. You don't wanna cut yourself, so you don't wanna go through the skin. You're gonna go longwise, and then you're gonna flip it, and you're gonna do it again.
So just kind of using the point of the knife there, and just put a little gentle downward pressure on it.
You can either hold it or you can put it down. It's a little bit easier if you put it down on your cutting board.
Reminds me of tic-tac-toe.
Gotta put the X's and O's on there. All right, so now you're gonna take your scored mango and you're gonna pop the skin through. So what you have is all these little cubes that come out. So now you're gonna take your knife again and you're just gonna very carefully work away around skin.
Wow, so I notice you're kind of starting in the middle and working down and then flipping it, starting from the middle again and cutting down and away from yourself, right? Very, very important, something we talked about last week. What was that acronym that we talked about?
SAS.
SAS. SAS. Okay. And what does SAS stand for? Does anybody remember out there? Remember your acronym for SAS? Stop. Right.
Away.
Away. Sharp.
And
Okay.
store.
And store. All right. So making sure, again, stopping and pausing and making sure everything's clear in your workspace,
Yeah.
right? So you don't have any obstacles to work around. And then making sure that you're using the knife away from you.
Right.
Okay. And a dull knife is actually more responsible for cuts, right, than an actual sharp knife.
It is. Dull knives can get pretty messy. With sharp knives, you're able to make a nice, clean cut. So you're able to just go straight down. With dull knives, sometimes you have to really, rake it through, or you have to push it down, and putting all that extra force. When we're using vegetables or fruits that are kind of slippery, it can slip away, and that's how cuts happen.
Okay.
All right, so now we're gonna work with this core section. So to do that, we're gonna kind of work our way around it. So I just cut off another half, again, the skin side is there. So we're gonna do our same thing. Just gonna score it.
Now I'm not seeing the core, right? But how can I know it's there?
You'll know
I'm
it's
gonna
there.
feel it?
Yeah, you will feel it. So if you're cutting and you just feel like something is not right, like it's very hard, that's the core.
So if you start bumping into the core, maybe just move your knife out away from it just a little bit, and then try your cut again.
Right.
All right, so we got our score marks going here. This is so fun. I gotta try to peel this out a little bit. So I'm just peeling. Oh yeah, I can see that.
Very good.
Wow.
Now this cut kind of resembles a chop. So when you're using your knives, there's a couple of different cutting techniques that you can use. So chopping, as you can see here, is kind of, you know, these pieces aren't exactly the same shape, but that's okay. We're making our mango salsa. There's no need for everything to be perfect. But if you do want a perfect cut, that's what we're gonna call dicing. So dicing is going to be small cubes. I think they're about the same size too, right, Ben? And they're just a little bit smaller. All right, so with your mango, if you want to get a little bit more fruit out of it, you can kind of just cut around the core, and you're just gonna cut little pieces. So sometimes they just get small. And again, we're just gonna do a nice little chop. We have kind of similar sized pieces. All right, now you're gonna take your mango. We're gonna just put it in our mixing bowl right here.
Now mangoes are a tropical fruit, right? And they are very rich in vitamins and minerals. Again, a really important part of a balanced diet is getting those micronutrients in it. Now think about the word micro versus macro, right? What's the difference between macro and micro? Micro is very, very small, right? And when we hear the word macro, that means very, very large. So macronutrients, fats, carbohydrates, proteins, are something we need in larger quantities. Micronutrients we need in much smaller quantities. And this is a good example of a fruit that is high in many, many micronutrients, including vitamin C, vitamin B, folate, and copper.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a very trace amount of copper in there, again, which is an important part. It serves the body, serves the brain, the nervous, blood system, and your immune system. So as do a lot of vitamins, vitamin C we've talked a lot about. This is another great example of vitamin C that helps our body fight off those germs and keep our body healthy and feeling good.
Right. Those macronutrients help us with energy and keep us going all day. But these micronutrients, like Ben was saying about vitamin C and minerals like copper and folate, all of those help with the small, kind of just daily routines that our body does.
Now, when I go to the store, I get mangoes a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I walk up to the mango, there are 100 of them to choose from, right?
Right.
And so, how do I know which one to choose?
Right.
What am I looking for in a good mango that's going to lead to this delicious salsa?
Yeah, so with most fruits and vegetables, one of the best ways that you can tell if it's good or not is to use your senses. So you're going to look at it. You're going to want to make sure, like our pepper here, there's not many blemishes on it. There's no cuts. There's no dark spots, anything like that. Same thing with our mango. When we had it, mangoes can be green, they can be red. The colors kind of, they can have both of them. Some mangoes have both. The other thing is you want to feel it. So with our pepper, you're going to feel it. It's nice and firm. You don't want to touch it and it be soft and mushy. Same thing with your mango. But with your mango, you're going to want it to be a little bit soft because if it's rock hard, you're not going to be able to cut it. And it might not be as sweet. It's not ripe yet.
So it's maybe something to think about is when you're going to the store, right? Anticipating, when am I going to have this mango? Do I want this mango as soon as I get home for a snack? Or maybe I'm going to hold off on a day or two because I'm going to make some delicious homemade salsa, you know, this weekend, you know, as I have some friends over or something. So maybe if I'm going to prolong it and not use my mango for a couple days, I'm going to go for one that's a little bit firmer, right? And if I'm going to go home and I'm ready for it right now, I'm going to get one that's ready to go, which is maybe just got a little bit more softer under the skin.
Right, and if it's still firm, you can leave it out on your counter. It's fine to sit there for a few days. If it is still a little bit soft, to keep it fresh just for a couple days longer, you can put it in the fridge and that will keep it good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now we're gonna get to our pepper. So we cut peppers last week. We sliced those peppers though. These peppers, again, we're gonna dice them. So we're gonna make smaller pieces that are about the same shape. And we're just gonna use half of our pepper. So to do that, you can flip over the bottom, down. You're gonna cut it down, and now you have this shape. So what you can do, we did this a little bit last week too. I like to just cut these pieces right here. So you're gonna cut these curved like half moon shapes. That way you don't get any of this core. So I'm just gonna cut 2 of those because we're just using half of it. And now we're gonna dice. So again, like Staf said last week, I think, you're gonna not wanna cut on this side. This is a little bit slippery. It's much easier to cut on the fleshy side of your fruits and vegetables. So to dice it, we're just gonna cut little strips. We're gonna slice it first.
Taking our time, right? No hurry here. You can always pause the video. So take your time, get it into some nice thin strips. Taking care of those fingers, making sure they're out of the way as you're cutting down and away from yourself.
Oh, that's our timer.
Timer.
Let's check on our tortillas.
So our tortillas have been in there for 10 minutes, correct?
Yep.
All right. So if we take a look here, what am I looking for in our tortillas?
So you're gonna want your tortillas to be a little bit on the brown side. You want them to have a little bit of toast on them. You don't want them black though, because they're burnt. So we're gonna look at these. They're starting to toast up on this edge. And remember, like last week, Ben is making sure to put on an oven mitt, or you can use a towel to grab this hot tray out of the oven. So we're gonna put these back in the oven for just like 2 more minutes just to get them a little bit brown.
Okay.
So I'm gonna set my timer again for 2 minutes.
2 more minutes.
We're gonna continue with our cutting. So we just had our slices. You can take a couple of them into a group and you're just gonna cut them down again to make these small little cube shapes. You just wanna be careful that you're watching out for your fingers. One hack that you can do with cutting is you can curl in your fingers like this. It'll protect your fingernails in case if you get a little excited or if something slips or maybe your dog comes around and you maybe knocks into you. You want to make sure that your fingers are protected from your knives.
Again, we used a pepper in our recipe last week as well, right? But last week we sauteed them. So today we're gonna be having these as raw, right?
Right, yeah.
So
Peppers
we can
are great raw.
have them cooked or raw. Again, excellent source of a variety of vitamins and minerals, including vitamin C, which really helps support our immune system again. Vitamin A, which helps with our
Vitamin A helps with your
eyesight. Yes. So we hear a lot of vitamin A in carrots, right? Making sure that we're keeping our eyes in good shape. And then also vitamin K, which has a really important job in the body of helping the blood to clot around scrapes and cuts. So whenever you get that little cut or a little scrape, vitamin K plays a really pivotal role in helping our blood to clot around that to stop the bleeding.
Right, that's amazing.
Okay.
All right, so I just took our onion. I took off the peels over here. You just set those aside. We're just gonna use 1/4 of our onion. So we're gonna cut it right down in half. Like so. And then we're gonna cut it in half like once again. And this part you can just leave to the side. Oh, all right, let's check on our tortillas.
Time to check on the tortillas. Again, looking to see if they're a little more browned up. They're looking pretty good here.
Those look pretty good to me. So some of them also might bubble. That's totally fine. That just means there's air in there and it's got nice and crispy. So
yes, they are nice and crispy. All right, so I'm
you
gonna go ahead and set these down, right?
Yeah. You wanna make sure you set those tortillas down on either, you can put them on your stove top, you wanna put them on maybe a towel. You don't want to put them on any surface that could melt. So if you have like plastic, you don't want to put them on like a cutting board because it will melt. So just be careful with that.
Or directly on your countertops. Your parents will not be impressed. So please put it on a rack, a baking rack, or a towel, or better yet, just put it right on the grates of your stove. And we're going to let those sit while we continue to
chop our onion.
Chop it up.
All right, so we're going to cut our onion again. Watch those fingers, curl them in. We're just gonna do a couple of slices.
Starting to feel my eyes water a little bit.
Ooh.
Anybody remember what's in the onions that makes your eyes water?
Got that sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid.
All right. Now we're gonna take those slices. You see, onions are nice because they already have these small little rings in them so that we don't have to cut them a ton. We're just gonna chop them one more time. Get these small little pieces. Again, your shapes don't have to be perfect, so if you have some that are long, some that are small, it's all gonna taste the same. Your mango salsa is gonna be delicious no matter what.
Now one quick thing, are we done with the oven, Chloe? Should I turn my oven off?
We are done with our oven, so once you pulled out your tortillas, you can turn your oven off.
Okay. And on ours, that's just a quick touch of the off button.
All right, so our onions are all diced up now. We can throw those into our mango salsa, like that. I'm just gonna wash my hand real quick.
Now, if we wanted to make more, we would simply just be using all of our ingredients, correct?
Right.
Just kind of depending on who's home. Now, how long can I store this for? Maybe that's something to help me kind of consider how much I should be cutting up, right? If I have a lot of families and members around, they love salsa,
Right.
probably gonna cut it all up. But how long will this last for in my refrigerator?
So your mango salsa will probably be good for about 3 days in your fridge. You're gonna want to put it into a container that has a lid. That'll keep the air from getting out. Sometimes with fruits and vegetables, oxygen can make everything go kind of brown. We don't want that. One thing that helps with that is our citrus fruits. So our citrus fruits, which we're going to add our lime in now. And again, you don't have to measure this precisely. You're gonna use a whole lime though. If you don't like lime, you can use half a lime. If you really like lime, you can add more than that if you want. You're just gonna take your lime, you cut it up, squeeze it over everything. So we have a nice zesty mango salsa. One thing, if you really like limes, you can also zest the outside. So if you want to reduce your food waste, you want to use every part of your food, you can actually take a micro grater, or if you have a cheese grater at home, you can take your lime after you wash it and you can just rub it against and it'll create some lime zest, and you can just throw that in as well. Just makes it a little bit more limey if you like that.
Interesting.
So we're going to squeeze this in.
Love the smell of it too. Smells so good.
It does. All right, so now we have our mango salsa. You can add a little bit of salt in it if you want. I'm not going to. You can have salt if you want. A little bit of sodium won't hurt anyone, but you do want to be careful with it. It is a micronutrient, so we need it in our bodies, but a little bit too much can be harmful. So you can put salt in there if you'd like. Now we're just going to mix it up. Just kind of get everything tossed in that lime juice.
Look at all the different colors. Something that you've heard us say a couple different times now, right? Really trying to eat the rainbow and incorporating a variety of fruits and vegetables into our diet, right? So that we get a variety of these micronutrients that our body needs to perform a variety of functions.
Right. So one thing you can do too to add more color to your mango salsa is you could add some tomatoes. So if you do like tomatoes, you can get little cherry tomatoes, wash them, just cut them in half, and they'll add a pop of red in there. Do you like spicy food, Ben?
I love spicy food.
If you like spicy food too, you can actually take a jalapeno, and be careful with those. The seeds and that core is what's really spicy. So you can cut around your jalapeno, kind of like what we did with our pepper. You can cut one side off and just cut those ends. You can just dice it up, make it really tiny pieces, and put it in there. But of course, if you don't like hot food, you don't have to do that.
Right. So know the difference between a sweet pepper and a hot pepper.
Right.
I've made that mistake before.
All right, so I think we're ready. Our tortillas should be cooled down now, which will make them a little bit crisp. So I'm going to bring some over. Touch this. Our pan isn't too hot, but just to be safe, I'm going to keep it down here. So we have some nice tortillas, and we have our mango salsa. I think everyone should try it now. What do you think?
I'm ready.
All right, let's grab our tortillas. These have cooled down nicely. Just scoop some mango salsa. I'm going to try to get a little bit of everything on mine.
Wow. So as we think about a balanced meal, right? What do we see here as far as a balanced meal? We have our brains. We have our, what's our fruit that we're using in here today?
Our mango.
Mango. And then we have some vegetables, right?
Peppers and onions.
Peppers and onions. So what are we missing? What are we missing out of this balanced meal? We're missing a little bit of protein.
We are. But that's okay with snacks. Snacks are just to get you through the day. Snacks are what we eat in between meals. It's hard, you know, when you're in school all day, you probably all wake up a little bit early, maybe 7, and then you don't get to eat until noon. So having a snack when you're using your brain, you're going through all that energy, or maybe you have gym class or you're just running around all day, snacks keep us fueled between our meals. So it's okay to only have a couple of our balanced meal portions in there.
But we want to make sure that if we're missing protein for maybe our snack, we're going to really be sure that we incorporate it into our next meal, right? So it's not vital that we have every single nutrient involved in our meal. That's the whole goal of eating a balanced diet, is making sure you're doing it across your day.
Right.
Excellent. All right. So
ready to taste this.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Wow.
What do you all think at home?
It's fantastic.
It's nice and sweet from the mangoes. The bell pepper is a little bit sweet and crunchy. Our onion adds a little bit of spice, but not too much.
Wow.
Pretty good.
And I really like the homemade tortilla chips that we've made. A lot of times when you're going to get tortilla chips at the store, they're going to be packed with that salt, right? Packed with sodium. Here we've got a sodium-free version.
Right.
We could choose to flavor it just with a little bit of sodium, which is important for the body to have small amounts of sodium in the diet.
Right.
But we tend to kind of overuse salt, right?
We do.
So you want a little sprinkle? Excellent. But here we've created a delicious, almost fully balanced meal, right? Just missing those little bit of proteins. In fact, maybe if I've got some of those black beans left over from last week, I would be into scooping some of those on there as well.
That would be really good too.
Excellent. Well, Chloe, thank you so much.
Thank
This
you,
is great. What a great, delicious snack we've created. Make sure you share it, right? You're not going to keep all to yourself. Go share it with your brothers and your sisters and your family, your parents. Let them in on this delicious snack. So, excellent. We hope you've enjoyed it. We will look forward to seeing you next week when we're going to have another delicious, healthy, balanced meal for you to prepare.
We will.
All right. Until then, see you next week.
Keep cooking.